This is Tar Heel Illustrated publisher Andrew Jones, along with staff writer Jacob Turner, coming to you from Keenan Stadium in Chapel Hill, home of the football Tar Heels. And Jacob, we just watched, I guess it's the last practice of fall camp. I think fall camp really ended yesterday morning or the day before with the scrimmage, but really signals the end of it now because there's a day off Tuesday, and then they begin practice Wednesday in their morning schedule. They practice weekdays, 8 o'clock in the morning, starting Wednesday, and that's when they'll start gearing toward the opener against South Carolina. So what we're going to focus on is their 16 practices in is fall camp. They came into fall camp with a lot of question marks, notably at quarterback and also depth at multiple positions. So here we are 16 days later. Did they answer any of those questions? I think they answered one, depth at defensive tackle, and they feel like they're getting an answer at quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they answered anything else.
Yeah, I agree. I think the quarterback issue, some people are kind of taking it in a way where Sam Howell, a lot of people are taking it as, okay, Sam Howell's the starting quarterback. And I don't think that's necessarily how it's shaping out. For me, I think there's still a battle between all three of them, maybe more particularly Reuter and Howell. Because notice what Mac said in the interview was he's running with the first team. He didn't come out and say Sam Howell is your starting guy. So there's still a battle going on there, but I think they have more of a feel, and that's good. Because we had a worry last week on our last podcast. We were kind of talking about how if there's still no clear separation in a week or 2 weeks from now, it kind of becomes a problem at that point. So it's good that happened. That's a great thing that Carolina can kind of go in towards. I guess it's all preseason, but more preparing for South Carolina now. Now they've got a guy that seems to have a little bit more of an edge of having that starting job against South Carolina. So that's great for the team. And then, depth concerns were a big thing. Jay Bateman talked about it last week on the defensive side of the ball, but from what we saw today in the open practice, there was a lot of guys flying around, a lot of guys that impressed me more than I thought they would. It's practice. They didn't do a ton today, so you got to take it with a pinch of salt. But, quarterback-wise, depth-wise, I think Carolina feels a little bit better, definitely a lot better than when they started, but I think day by day, week by week in fall camp, they're feeling a little bit more confident about what they have as a team right now.
Yeah, we're not going to beat the quarterback situation into the ground. I dealt with that in a video cast, or whatever we're calling these things, that I did last night, and we're running Monday on the site, but I agree with you that it's not etched in stone that Sam Howell's a starter against South Carolina, although I suspect he will be.
Yeah.
I mean, he has the job, he has the spot to lose right now, but you're going to see Reuter push him. I think there is a separation now between Howell and Reuter, and then Fortin. I think that gap is greater than the Howell-Reuter gap, if there is much of one. So, and we did say a week ago, we did the video cast about the quarterbacks, if there was no separation and they were still even, then it would probably go to Howell. Because he's not just the guy that they flipped from Florida State. I think too much is made of that. It's because the other two have been in college for more than a year. The other two have had ACC reps. And if he's even with them, then that means that you kind of like that trajectory just a little bit more. And some of the things that I know that they like about Sam is I said this in another podcast, the ability to make something happen that's unscripted. Now, they need other guys to be able to do that as well. They need football players making football plays, and that's kind of where a lot of this depth is going to come in when they start to fill this stuff out. And I know they like a lot of guys that have improved during fall camp, but I'm not sure that they know how much they like them until they get into a game. That's why when you talk to Mac, when he says, hey, we got issues here, we got issues there, we got issues there, because until they see them in live fire against South Carolina and then Miami and then Wake, they're not really going to know 100% what Nick Polino is going to be like snapping the ball 75 times a game. What Marcus McKeithen's going to be like playing right guard 75 snaps a game. You know, what kind of depth do you have at linebacker? Can Chaz Surratt get on the field, and has he had enough reps to be able to make plays and not, kind of catch himself thinking before reacting? Those are the kinds of questions that aren't going to be answered in camp, aren't going to be answered in the next 12 days until they get on the field and play another opponent.
Yeah, you can't. We've said it a lot of times, not only in our writing, but in these videos as well, that there's only so much you can really learn about somebody from practice. There's guys that are really good practice players, and there's guys that are gamers. The guys that maybe don't play as well in practice for whatever reason, but when it comes to game time, they show out. So that's the main thing, that you got to take everything with a grain of salt when it comes to these practices, when it comes to fall camp, because until the guys in live game action, especially in a whole new staff like this, new offense, new defense, everything's brand new. So there's going to be some learning curves. I mean, there's just no way around it. And you can't expect perfection from this team early on, especially when you look. I mean, they return a lot of guys, but you got to remember, this team didn't win a lot of games the past 2 years. So there's still a lot of question marks about this team and what it can be. But from what we've seen throughout fall camp so far, I'm not leaving it with more question marks. I'm thinking I'm leaving it with more answers about this team. I think this team definitely has a better identity. I think it's more sure of itself. And one of the things Mac Brown harps on, not only in his personal life, but in his coaching style as well, is the little things. You have to focus on the little things. You have to take care of the little things in order to get to where you want to go and succeed. And I think that's great life advice. But when it comes to sports and playing at this level, it is so big. I mean, any great team, any great program you see in college football, NFL, college basketball, NBA, whatever it may be, it's the little things. They all have that, and that's what it takes. So I think Carolina's headed in the right direction in that way. But like you mentioned, until you see them in the live games, there's going to be a learning curve, and there's going to be a lot of question marks about this team. But from what I saw in fall camp, I think things look going in a positive direction, I should say.
To me, the most positive thing I think they learned during fall camp, and that I saw as someone who has to cover the team and has covered them for many, many years, is they have some depth at defensive line. When they entered fall camp, I mean, that was, other than quarterback, that was the biggest question mark. I mean, I know linebacker, they didn't know what was going on, but like they didn't know they had any depth at all behind Strobridge and Crawford. I think they feel really good about Jaleel Taylor. I think they really like the way Tamari Fox, Tamon's brother, is coming along. I think Zach Gill, the light's going on for Zach Gill. So that's three guys, and Tamari is lining up at end. He's going in 3 technique. I don't know how much 4 technique he's doing, but he's a big, strong guy. Who was it the other day? I can't remember who it was. One of the players told us the other day, maybe it was Strobridge, said he's the strongest guy in the room.
I think it was,
and he's a true, it was Strobridge. He's a true freshman. So I think the concerns about defensive line, especially the interior, the guys that are always going to put a hand on the ground, I don't think that they're that concerned about that. I still think there's a little bit about that hybrid defensive and linebacker spot, but you know what I saw tonight? That really was cool to see, just if you like dudes. Alan Cater's a really good guy. He's an enjoyable guy to cover. I was up at Syracuse last year when he blew out his knee. It was a terrible injury. Felt horrible for him. And he was out there with the ones, the blue team, first team, whatever you want to call it around here, in a lot of the stuff, the 11-on-11 stuff they were doing tonight. Still got the big brace on, but he was out there. And Mac went out of his way a couple times to say something about how Alan Cater's come along. Jay Bateman went out of his way to mention him as one of the guys that's been a positive surprise in camp. So that's huge, because I think that maybe they weren't thinking that he was going to be someone that could give them anything early on. The fact that he can kind of gives them a little bit more depth in that spot. So I would say the front part of the defense is in better shape now than we thought it would have been 3 weeks ago when camp started.
Yeah, and I've had a chance to really focus. We'll have a video coming out, I guess over the next couple of days, this week for sure, on the D-line, because I got to focus a lot on the D-line. I got some really good video of the D-line, not only here, but some open practices as well. And one of the things that really, one of my biggest takeaways, not only from tonight, but just from watching this team as a whole during fall camp, is Tim Cross. I mean, I think, guys of let's get this work, everybody knows about him from that viral video that went out, but his coaching style and the way he's kind of got this group gelling together, it's a fun-loving environment. Guys are joking around, but when it comes down to getting down to work and playing, these guys look really good and they look confident. And you've got leaders, exactly. And you got to think, you got Aaron Crawford, Jason Strobridge, you got big leaders, guys that have been there before, guys that Mac Brown had mentioned is somebody that he thinks they have NFL careers in the future. So when you got those guys in front of you leading a young group, you got the likes of Zach Gill, who's a lot bigger than I thought he was. Let's put it that way.
He's a big guy.
And I mentioned it when you talked about him a few minutes ago. I said it's huge because just having young guys like that, him, Jaleel Taylor, that can come along, feel a little bit more confident, feel a little bit more certain about what their role is on the defensive line, is so huge for this team.
How many snaps they can get. Mac mentioned that Sunday. They need to determine whether this guy can give them 20 snaps, this guy can give them 12 snaps, when they're going to get those snaps, and that's really important early in the season when it's real hot out. And by the way, after Mac's post-practice presser, it wasn't really a press conference, and it wasn't a typical post-practice thing.
Different.
It was just different. So it was just a different, it was like a hybrid post-practice interview session. Since they love the hybrid term around here right now. I was walking on the concourse and I passed Coach Cross. I said, "Hey, Coach, take care." And just he responded, he's walking, and he's radiating all this energy.
You can see
and he's just walking on the concourse after practice, after the guys have been in the ice baths, and he's still radiating energy. I think it's just innately who he is, and one of the reasons why Mac Brown was drawn to him and why he brought him onto the staff.
Exactly. I think he's done a great job with this D-line group. You can go check out a video we ran, I guess a couple weeks ago now, from the other open practice we saw. We focused on the D-line a little bit. It's really cool to see his coaching style. I have another one coming out tonight where you can get a really good close-up view of what he does as a coach. But I like Tim Cross. I like Tim Brewster. Jay Bateman, I think, has done a fantastic job in the minimal time we've had to see him kind of interact with guys and coaches. They're all fun to watch. So I think this team as a whole, especially on the defensive side of the ball, don't get me wrong, I think Phil Longo's done a great job as well. But from what I'm seeing on the defensive side of the ball and from what we're hearing in practice, it's gelled a little bit quicker, and it looks a little bit better. And not really a surprise when you consider what Jay Bateman did with, I guess, and no disrespect to Army, but a little bit less talent there. And he's done it. He's still had guys that bought in. That's the most important thing. But from what he did with them, I think it should be a little bit quicker of a transition period. And when you think about how bad Carolina's defense has really been since the Butch Davis era, even a little bit of improvement would be welcomed by everybody.
Back before that,
everybody will welcome
John. Look, John Bunning is a wonderful man. I got to know John some after he stopped coaching at Carolina, but his defenses were atrocious.
Yeah, it's just what it's been like here. So
I think the reason the defense has gelled faster than maybe the offense is because there's more old guys over there.
Yeah.
Miles Dorn's played a lot of football. Miles Wolfolk, when he's healthy, has played a lot of football. Fox, you mentioned Crawford and Strobridge. These guys, Dominique Ross has been in the program for a while and finally got on the field a lot last year and had some really good moments. Patrice Renee's played a ton. He was thrown into the fire as a true freshman. The third quarter, there's 2 pass interferences against Georgia. Most Carolina fans will never forget that. Second call, kind of suspect on that because you have to qualify that because Patrice will remind you that it was probably a bad call. There's a lot more gravitas on defense than there. On offense, you've got it at Polino, you've got it with Heck, Carl Tucker, and then the running backs. And that's kind of it. I mean, there's really none even at wide receiver. Corrales is probably like the oldest guy running routes over there, and he didn't start playing until halfway through his freshman year. He missed time last year because of suspension. It's never really gotten traction going yet. I think he will this year. I think one of the things that's a concern now that we didn't really talk about as a possible concern a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago when camp started, is the offensive line.
Yeah.
I think they're really solid with Jordan Tucker at right tackle. They love Heck at left tackle, but he just admitted to us a little while ago when I asked him about leadership on offense, because Mac is continually saying we need more leadership on offense. Charlie said, look, I'm not a loud guy. So it's got to come from somewhere. He's like, I got to pull it from myself. From a performance standpoint, I think he's fine. He does need to lead more. And I think they really love Ed Montilus at left guard. He's a redshirt freshman. He didn't play any snaps last year, but I think he's going to be fine. Where the problem is having to play Polino at center means that the right guard spot is Marcus McKeithen. And McKeithen was kind of working with the twos or even further back when camp started. They had Brian Anderson as the blue team center. He's had kind of a rough week and a half. So they moved Polino over there. I don't think it's his natural position. It's more of a natural guard. They've had some snap issues. We saw snap issues out here today.
Oh, yeah.
Even with Ty Murray, the true freshman, who's been banged up a little bit and had some high snaps. They're concerned about center. They're concerned about right guard. If they could shore up center and have it be somebody not named Polino, they'd be really happy with right guard with Polino there. So with center being a problem and Polino having to move over, it means there are 2 positions that they're not really comfortable with right now. And even the idea of having 8 offensive linemen going into the South Carolina game, 8 that they feel comfortable putting on the field. Max said yesterday, maybe 7 right now.
Yeah.
So offensive line, when you've got a true freshman quarterback.
It's not a good recipe.
Or even if it's Reuter, a guy who played 25 snaps last year.
Regardless.
And it's right up the gut. That's probably not a great thing to have.
Yeah, I mean, any great team, you're only as good as your offensive line. I mean, you got to have a good offensive line. You got to have somebody, especially if you got a guy like Howell back there or Reuter. I mean, both guys it's either a guy who's never played college football before, or it's a guy who played about 25 snaps, like you mentioned. So, I mean, to me, that's basically 2 true freshmen right there. So when you've got no O-line, I wouldn't say no O-line. They've got some guys like Heck and Polino, like you mentioned. Tucker's done a good job. Montilus is doing well, too. I think they have guys in there that can do it, but it's like this team as a whole. There's just a lot of question marks that we don't know about yet. And we said it in the beginning, and we're going to continue to say it until the season starts. Until we see these guys in live game action, it's really just speculation on how they're going to play. But on paper, this is a young team on the offensive line. And if Howell's back there, let's say Howell starts against South Carolina, and the O-line is just not playing very well. They're just not gelling well as a group. It's going to be a long day for Carolina because even with Carolina's great running back group that they have, you don't have an offensive line to block. It doesn't really matter how good your running back group is.
Another question area, special teams, the specialists, the kickers. And by the way, we're going to hit on linebacker later on this week in a piece that I'm writing, so I don't want to give too much of that away
exactly,
right now.
exactly.
Special teams, I think that, who was going to kick, who was going to be the place kicker, who was going to punt, who's going to snap. Well, Drew Little's the snapper. I watched him tonight, and he's unbelievable. That kid was ranked arguably the #1 snapper in the country last year. And, ask Ethan Albright if you can make a living snapping the football.
Yeah.
You could make a living snapping the football. They're in really good shape there. I think they really like Ben Kiernan, the true freshman punter who's from
Wakefield
High School. Yeah, over here in Raleigh.
Yeah, about 45 minutes.
Yeah, if even that.
Yeah.
And Michael Rubino.
Yeah, Rubino from Appalachian State
grad transfer. He's the kickoff specialist. And Noah Ruggles is going to be the place kicker. He's consistently gotten better during camp. I think they're in pretty good shape there. We didn't see kickoff return today, but we did see punt return. Daz Newsome and Corey Bell, who's someone who's moved over from a defensive side wide receiver. I think he's working in that rotation of the top 7 or 8 wide receivers, also returning some punts. I think they're in pretty good shape there as well.
They are, yeah.
Any other final thoughts?
No, I think from what I saw today, I'll say the biggest 2 takeaways, only have a couple more minutes on this, is
we got the players here about the photo bombers.
I say Miles Wolfolk and Miles Doan impressed me the most with their leadership in the secondary. They did some really nice things, and I think Sam Howell looked the best out there as quarterback. He threw the ball there, had a little bit more zip in it, had a little bit more of a confidence and maturity about his game than the other 2. But overall, I think it was a good experience to see everybody, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this thing continues to develop over the next couple of weeks.
To stay on that theme about being vocal, Jace Reuter was really vocal.
He was, yeah.
Very vocal, and he's the #2 guy, I guess, right now. Very, very vocal. I think you're going to see a role for him at some point, probably in the South Carolina game. Nobody's told me anything. This is just my gut feeling. I think they're going to play 2 quarterbacks.
I do too.
The spirit here is so different now.
Oh, it's complete 360.
There were a lot of people on the previous staff that I liked a lot. And I appreciate a lot of the things that those guys did. I certainly enjoyed covering them in many respects. I wish Larry would have given us more access.
Just a little bit.
I wish there would have been more transparency in the program. But it is so different here now.
It's night and day.
The spirit, the energy, the vibe, the confidence, the accountability in the program, which I think died in many respects.
I would agree.
In the previous program. I think that's why some of the things happen. It happens when you don't respect authority and there's not great accountability. I think all those things are there in place right now.
Exactly.
They don't have all the parts, but they have a lot of nice parts.
They're headed in the right direction.
And they're headed in the right direction. They may not have the best start, but I think that this is a program that's in position mentally, and as far as its spirit goes, and all the foundation within the walls of the program, that they're going to get better even if they get off to a rough start, because they do have a tough schedule.
They do.
And they begin that process Wednesday. They're not going to get into full South Carolina prep Wednesday, but they're going to really begin that process a lot. And before you know it, we're going to be in Charlotte, and we're going to see what this team's all about.
Yeah, we get to cover this team all season. I mean, no one covers this team as much as we do. We're there for everything. So it's been really cool to see this thing develop, see this program just do a complete 360 turn from what we saw last year. And like I said, I've said it a lot, but I'm really looking forward to just seeing how things progress, because the vibes around here is different, the energy around here is different, and since Mac Brown came in November, he's really done a nice job.
Speaking of Mac, they're going to do a TV spot.
And
on that, we're going to end our TV spot. It's been a lot of fun. Yep. We'll be back here doing something in the next week or so. Certainly next Monday, Mac Brown begins his weekly press conferences, and there's a change this year. We get both coordinators, and I think we're going to get a couple of players as well on Monday.
That'd be nice, yeah.
Monday is going to be chock full of a ton of stuff. We'll have it right for you here on TarHeelIllustrated.com. For Jacob Turner, this is Andrew Jones. Go to our site, TarHeelIllustrated.com. Check it out. We got a lot of great stuff going on. Got a big special going on for a few more days. If you like Adidas gear, you get $75 of that stuff for free, just for signing up if you're not already a subscriber. I probably should have done that early in this podcast. Doesn't matter. Anyway, thanks a lot, man. I had a fun time.
Yep.
Thank you.